The first hot take comes from a Reddit thread where people are once again, and this is actually like I think we've discussed this at least one other time, maybe twice. There's once again an uproar over the controller players, and it's funny because when I was at the Halo Classic, shout out to UGC for throwing that out. That was an amazing tournament. I was talking to Snipe Down a little bit. If you guys aren't familiar with him, old school Halo pro, one of the best in the game, also a really, really good Apex player. And he says the amount of crap he gets from other Apex professionals because he uses a controller is unbelievable. And to me, I'm just getting so sick of hearing the keyboard and mouse players just whine and complain about somebody using a controller. Like, they're at a disadvantage in almost every conceivable possible way.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that this is continuing to come like over and over and over again, like these keyboard players just crying about, controller players shouldn't be able to have this like little advantage, blah, blah, blah. If it was so good and it was such an advantage, every player would be playing on a controller. You don't see that. And there'd be way more than how many professional Fortnite players use a controller? Like 2? 3?
At least the top ones, yeah. There's only a couple. And most people that do play with a controller and still play with a controller or do it because that's how they started, or they're just so used to it for so many years and they didn't grow up on PC games. Some people that do play on keyboard and mouse did switch over, but some people have been playing on it for years, and they are so good at all kinds of shooters when it comes to controlling with keyboard and mouse, to the point where they can definitely wipe the floor more times often than not if they were in a 1v1 against a controller player, regardless of whatever L trigger, spam, whatever auto aim that you think that whatever that you might accuse it of. I mean, it does exist, but it is not something that's such a tool, that's such an assist that you can say that, oh my God, they're basically cheating. It's not that deep at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think we really need to kind of deconstruct this argument a little bit, just for some of the people who are constantly bringing this up, because I don't really want to see this argument anymore. Like, you look at the pros for using a controller, L2 spam, potentially, right? Aim assist kind of can tell you sometimes that somebody's hiding in a bush, like in the old days, right?
Mm-hmm. That's
it. What are the cons? Well, up until recently, like, again, and apparently, they nerfed the one con and the one pro at the same time, is this like aim drag to a target that you're not targeting, and to two players being too close, or if there was somebody way behind the person you were shooting, sometimes you get pulled towards that person instead of the person close to you. And if you have a shotgun out, that's completely useless. You know what I mean? So there's a big con to using a controller. Then you look at lack of sensitivity, lack of ability to finely control your motion. All these things are kind of fighting against controller players, and they have this like one potential pro that Fortnite has apparently removed. Now let's look at the PC side of the argument. Oh, excuse me.
It's just making you sick. This argument's making you sick.
Yeah, it is. Low key. You have an insane ability to move around incredibly quickly. Like, you can turn around, you can do a full 180, even if you play on low sensitivity, like almost instantaneously. So you have a faster ability to move around, look at different corners of your screen. You have the ability to play on low sensitivity without losing any of the benefit of high sensitivity. What do I mean by that? Well, if you have a big mouse pad or desk area, you can play on low sensitivity, and any 180 you can do a big sweeping motion, whereas low sensitivity for small aiming, you can kind of do little tiny vibrations to kind of move around, little circles. Whereas a controller player needs to inherently choose, am I going for less accuracy and a higher sensitivity, or am I going for smoother, more consistent sensitivity, but that's going to significantly prevent me from being able to do anything if somebody gets the jump on me from behind? That's not a question that any PC player has ever had to ask themselves.
No. The first game, not exaggerating, the very first game that I played on PC, when I got my PC, I fired up, I played a few games CSGO, then I closed CSGO and I played Fortnite, and it was glorious. Got to play in way better frame rate than Xbox, and playing with a controller, I knew I was going to be at a disadvantage because I knew right away these players are going to be quick. One of the players in the game that I came across, the first player because I landed somewhere, I was like, all right, it's PC world. Let me land somewhere far away from everybody. So the first guy I end up seeing, I was probably, I don't know, like 20, 30 feet in game, like away from him, shot him in an open field. He 180, just turned immediately and started building like incredibly fast. But the way that he was able to spin and just build, I mean, the fact is, like, you knew right away, like, all right, this is what I have to deal with as a controller player.
Ballpark.
It's something that I have to now kind of adapt to. And controller players have done a damn good job, but there is, like you said, such a few. There's such a tiny amount that actually get to that top tier level of professional player that are controller based. It's everybody else is a keyboard and mouse. So what does that tell you? I have no idea where this argument's coming from.
Yeah, I don't either. And then, I mean, the one thing that we haven't even talked about, I mean, you briefly mentioned it there, but something that I hadn't kind of mentioned in summarizing the argument, this has all been relative to aiming. I haven't even started to talk about building, where you have all 4 keys underneath your 4 fingers. You can quickly cycle through things. It's so easy for you to do, whereas controller players legitimately have to, take their thumb off the aimer. Here's another thing. Controller players, no matter what kind of build you go, no matter what kind of controller settings you use, there's almost always in every single game an action that you have to take that removes your thumb from your ability to aim. Like, you have to take your thumb off the joystick in order to, unless you kind of claw. I guess you can claw, but that's super bad for your hands.
You can claw, you get then you'll have arthritis in 15 years. I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. There's been some great players who have used it, but
I believe a scuff or those controllers that you can map the paddles, and that's what's recommended if you're a controller player. Obviously, I don't think there's no controller player that's playing with a basic controller. They all have scuffs or an elite of some sort. Those are the only controllers that you can really use that can, I guess, be formidable against somebody who's on a keyboard and mouse and trying to build against you. Because if you're on a normal controller, you have to get there's not many options, so you're pretty much stuck when it comes to combating against them.
Yep, 100%. And then if you're talking about somebody playing on a console, well, then you run into a whole list of other cons for that player, right? Like, you're talking about capped frame rates. You're talking about not necessarily changeable fields of view. Like, PC usually has a field of view slider. Console usually does not. So there's all these different things where it's just like, the advantages are so heavily stacked in the PC favor and in the keyboard and mouse favor that the fact that anyone's crying about controller players like this, just has to stop. Like, you're just bad. Like, that's it. Like, you're just not good at the game. If you were better, then you wouldn't be crying about this. And the fact that I see pro players crying about it sometimes just blows my mind. Like, even great players, like I think like Mongrel or something made a tweet about it, saying like LOL, like goodbye controller players. Like, bro, like, what are you doing?
I want to leave it at this. If you have people that don't want the control, that think that the controller players are cheating and they're playing on a keyboard and mouse and all that, the whole aspect comes down to, everyone admits there are specific games that you play with a keyboard and mouse that you should definitely play with a keyboard and mouse. Always recommended. There are also a lot of games that people recommend you play with a controller. Call of Duty is one of them. People always recommend you got to play Call of Duty with a controller. That's just that type of game. Gears of War, another one where people think you really have to play with a controller. Now, there are 2 mainly console games, honestly, but there's no hiding the fact that the console community is huge, just as big as the PC community, because consoles are really powerful. Yeah, PCs are getting even more popular now. They're more as popular than ever. But the fact still remains that there is such a large amount of gamers in general that are controller players that now, with the way that technology is getting, we're having these games that give us the opportunity to crossplay. So you're going to have a lot of instances where people are playing on different peripherals than you. And if you want to have that flexibility, you want to have that freedom, that convenience, everyone's got to get used to this fact and not complain about it, because at the end of the day, there is no advantage, and they do every game does their best to make sure that it's an even playing field as much as they can. And let me just say, I mean, I'm not even going to mention aimbots that people get on keyboard and mouse. Like I was playing
yeah.
CS:GO yesterday, and there was a guy hacking in the game. I mean, it was just that right there tells you like there's so many more advantages that people on PC can get. That low key, even like that will people will never know but them. Like some sort of client they're running. Console players come from such a different realm. You know, we're much more humble, I believe. You know, unless you talk to certain Call of Duty players or certain Gears players, they come off as loud, but they're just passionate. The controller players, the area they come from, cross playing with PC players, they do not have the advantage. It comes down to accuracy at the end of the day, and Fortnite has Bloom for all the that matters. So what L trigger? Yeah, it helps with auto aim or aim assist and whatever you want to, whatever the verb that you want to use on it. But it PC, I mean, I play keyboard and mouse with so many other games, with every other game actually, but Fortnite. And the only reason I don't play it with keyboard and mouse is because there's so many goddamn buttons. With the way the weapon inventory and the building, like you cannot play with default. There's no way you play with default because you have to have like somehow longer fingers than me, which I don't even know how that's possible. My fingers are like each one's like a telephone pole. So if you can't reach the F1 through F4 key to build on those default, like you're obviously changing your binds. So you're going to either figure it out yourself, or if you're at least somewhat you have like a researchable attitude where you're going to go on, say, Reddit or somewhere and then be like, what are the best keybinds for me? For me, I did try it, but it is way harder than it seems, especially for Fortnite. For games like Overwatch, for games like CSGO, they're a lot more simplistic, I believe. So there's just so many less keys that you need to worry about. For Fortnite, it is a very difficult game. Keyboard and mouse players are insane at this game. They are so much more technical when it comes to the actual game itself. Controller players, man, that's why it's so much more impressive to me when I see a controller player whooping ass because of that.